Hi guys, this is Dr. Margolin. Here is the question we got. We got it from many people, and this is, I would say, $1,000,000 question, and I think this video would be expected and answer a lot of questions for a lot of people. And this is the question about overdose. There are several questions. First question, why it's on the rise? And it's not such a kind of simple question. Well, people become addicts overdose, that's why they're on the rise. It's not that simple. Actually, if you look at the statistics of 19th century, like 1890s, 130 years ago, 1 in 200 of Americans was an addict to opium, but there were no overdoses, at least not at that amount, not at that rate of increase. And even when I remember when I was a resident, and just after the residency, addicts were more concerned for IV infection and HIV, and overdose was a concern, but not to the extent that we see it now. So what has changed? It's actually a very complex question, and I'll try to do impossible to summarize it in like few-minute video. So just bear with me. I think it will try to make an important point. Secondly, what is the difference between overmedication and overdose, and how you at home can prepare or manage that if you know somebody is at risk? That we address in part 2. So let me start with a few words about what's going on with overdoses. This is a graph that shows the number of overdoses, which is divided between overdoses related to prescriptions and overdoses related to heroin, right? And we see a relationship which is not surprising. There was definitely too many prescriptions for opioids, and the prescriptions were on the rise, and overdoses were on the rise. The United States started to regulate opioid prescription, different states, different years, but around 10, 11, 12, 13, there is more and more evidence. That's what's going on. Ohio was regulated about 2011 in a very significant way. And what we started to see is that the number of prescriptions, maybe from 15, 16, is actually somewhat went down. This is the number of prescriptions. And the overdoses remained related to prescriptions, maybe remained stable, maybe went a little bit down, but we had a surge of overdoses related to heroin. And this is very expected, because regulations didn't change the people. People who had the problem, once they didn't get access to opioid medication, they went for heroin. And this is being addressed right now. It's a huge problem still as we go into 2019. But there is even a bigger problem, and this is a big point that I want to make. There is something that surged like here from 2013 and up, and this is today responsible for most overdoses in the United States. And this is not opioid prescriptions and not heroin. So what is it? Do your home research, and it's something called fentanyl. Fentanyl. Well, you can say, hold on, fentanyl is an opioid medication. It is prescribed. You say it's not related to prescription. This is not the fentanyl which is prescribed. This is illegal fentanyl which is being mailed from overseas, significantly from China. It's very potent, very, very potent. And that answers the question we addressed in our previous video. You don't need to be an addict to die from it. Actually, as not being an addict, you would call it opioid naive. You're more susceptible to high potency substances like that. The dealers like this substance because it's high potency, it's easy to hide, easy to transport, extremely, extremely dangerous. And they mix it apparently with marijuana, they mix it with heroin. And that's why people who even was so-called experimenting with it, they can die even from the first attempt. Even there were cases that people bought illicit marijuana and died from the first joint because it was mixed with fentanyl. It's extremely dangerous. That's why you put it, each time you do something illegal, illicit, you put your life in danger, even if it's marijuana. Okay, and even somebody who tried it in the past, I heard the stories when I was a college kid and nothing happened. Situation changed. Really, really stay away from anything illegal. Many states, including Ohio, offered medical marijuana. If it's indicated, you can try this. But that's really the biggest killer. And, definitely stay away from it. If you hear whatever you can do, write to your lawmaker to stop mailing illegal fentanyl to the United States. You can save a lot of lives. Now, the second part of this video will address the difference between overmedication, overdose, and what you can do. This is the end of part one. Part two of this video, we're going to talk about the difference between overmedication and overdose, why it develops, and what can be done. And this is important. If you do it correctly, you get it, you can save lives. Well, why overmedication happens? It definitely can happen with any illegal substance because the dosage is inaccurate. Obviously it's not regulated, standardized. It could be a mixture of who knows what. Because people take it in a compulsive pattern. They can develop unusual sleepiness or drowsiness, mental confusion, slurred speech, intoxicated behavior. They'll behave like drunk, slow, shallow breathing, pinpoint pupils. Remember this? Withdrawal, pupils go wide. If it's over medication, overdose, pupils go narrow. You can fake it. Slow heartbeat and a low blood pressure. Difficulty waking individual from sleep. It's possible to wake somebody up, but it is difficult. The breathing at this point can be somewhat shallow. The respiratory rate, you count how many respiration person breathes per minute, and it's somewhat decreased, but there is breathing. Okay, so this is a sign of over medication. It is a big concern. By the way, it can happen even if person is prescribed FDA approved opioid medication, either because the person takes more than prescribed, the person has a disease that changes the rate of opioid medication, typically liver or kidney failure, some other underlying diseases. You really need to be on alert. So it's not only for addicts, it's anybody who is on controlled substance. When the person is over-medicated, well, you need to call for help. You definitely need to call 911, which I suggest as the first choice. You need to think about several things. First, you need to monitor his breathing. Secondly, you need to have Narcan at home. You can either get it as Enzivo, an injectable syringe that you can inject into the muscle, or you can get as a nasal spray, right? You can administer naloxone as IV too, but it's not practical at home. It's more like for emergency room or hospital. Now, very important when this happens, and we're going to talk about overdose in a second. When you see the person is over-medicated, you need to monitor his breathing and, if possible, administer his oxygen. For over-medication, you can use Oxygen Plus. If it's not a CPR situation, you can use Oxygen Boost. And if the condition deteriorates, you should start CPR. And this is very important because what really saves the person is airway and breathing, right? Naloxone is also very important. But until naloxone works, and naloxone may take up to 5 minutes to work when you give it as nasal spray or intramuscular injection. IV works very much faster. But you take this 3 to 5 minutes, and if the person is lethargic, his breathing deteriorates, you really want to maintain his airway and keep on his oxygen. You say, well, it's common sense. It's not. I've seen people who obviously it's a very scary situation. They do call 911. Some of them do have naloxone, some of them don't, and they run and they scream and they try to shake the person, wake him up, talk to him, reason with him. It's absolutely futile activity at this point. Call for help. If you have naloxone, give naloxone. Airway and breathing. I also suggest people at risk to get simple pulse oximeter for $18 or so, and you can see the saturation. You can see pulse pretty accurately, not 100% accurate, but pretty accurate, and give you a lot of information. You can count how many times the person breathes per minute. Now let's talk about overdose. Again, it's one of the biggest killer in the United States, definitely for younger people. More people get hurt from this than from motor vehicle accidents. What are the signs? First of all, pale and clammy face, limp body, fingernails turning purple or blue, vomiting or like agonal noises. It's not snoring, by the way. I heard it several times. It's like we call it death rattle. It's like agonizing breathing. It's very, very dangerous. Inability to wake the individual from sleep. Overmedication, you can wake a person up. Overdose, you can't. Person is unable to speak when awakened. Very little, if awakened. Very little or no breathing. Very slow or no heartbeat. So this is a real emergency. And we talked about naloxone. Definitely call 911. Definitely give naloxone. And here you need CPR kit. This is AMBO. This is oxygen balloon. I do recommend you get familiar how to use it. It has manometer here and says that it's full. You can turn, there is a key, you can turn this. You can set the rate. I would set in this situation the rate, the maximum you can get, 6 or 8 liters per hour, per minute, sorry. And then you apply AMBO to person's face. Before you do that, very important thing, person's tongue can fall and block his airway. It's a basic CPR skill, but I found it very important to repeat it in these circumstances because people concentrate on naloxone and concentrate on the opioids, they forget the airway. You get a simple airway for a few dollars, you insert it in a circular motion, you offer CPR costs, and then apply AMBO. Apply AMBO on person's face and gradually squeeze it. It will fill up with oxygen. Oxygenate the person. Oxygenate the person. If there is no heartbeat, then you need to start cardiac CPR with compression on the chest, with potentially defibrillation is necessary. Many times it's not about the heart. Many times it's about the breathing. If you catch it early, what opioids do, they suppress your respiratory center. So again, it's about airway and breathing. So again, we try to do the impossible. We answered the question. We reviewed the overdose in a few minutes. I'll just sum it up. Well, stay away from anything illegal. It can kill you, no matter what it is. With this high potency fentanyl, it can be contaminated, kill you the first time. If there is a person who takes controlled substances, review the overmedication, overdose sign, be familiar with CPR, maintain, you don't need to be a physician to do that, maintain airway, maintain breathing. Remember, naloxone takes 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes to work, even if it's good naloxone and you inject or spray it correctly. And also, spread this video. We do it to help people, to save lives. And I got those questions like why we're not talking about low back pain and why we're not talking on natural ways to decrease pain. We're actually well familiar with that, and we may talk in the future. But first, we want to be to keep you alive. So people say, well, why would I share a video about overdose? I get it. I mean, it's easier to share video on low back pain. People like to see videos on politics, on how to boost your testosterone, and about this new fancy diet. And I respect it. But whoever you are, whatever your political views are, in order to boost your testosterone, choose a diet, new like amazing stock, you need to be alive. So we do it as a volunteer work to keep you alive, and I think you can help a lot of people by spreading this video, If you're new to our channel, please subscribe. We will try to educate you and keep you and your loved ones safe. Thank you.